in, zooming in all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Brother, can you hear me? You good?
I can hear you.
Wonderful. Hasani, you're joining our 12:30 service. Thank you for being at the 9:30. I know it's early hours of the morning out there, and we love you for this, brother. But you know, Hasani runs an organization that every married couple and every person who's single and searching, people need to know about Couples Academy. Now, Couples Academy, these are academics. These are people who've studied. They didn't just wake up and think, you know what, I want to start a business. Let me be a married coach. No, these people have the actual qualifications. We're talking about a man with 18 books on the topic, worthy of you getting hold of, okay? And you don't hear me bigging many people up like this because I'm flat out fed up of noise without soundness. And so these individuals, his wife and himself, Danielle and Hasani, follow them online, listen to what they got to say, read their stuff. But Hasani, we picked up in the first service, and we dealt with a lot of stuff, but I want to jump to some of the questions for this second service, because there's couples out there. There's couples out there who are asking about, what do you do when you're in a marriage and there's been infidelity, you caught a side chick, and you're struggling to rebuild trust? What are some processes you can go through to help recover, because you don't want to live in a marriage where you are not sure whether or not you can trust this person going forward? You guys are experts, we know. You're the ambulance service, the ER room, we call it over here A&E, for really marriages that have gone through infidelity. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's an honor to be back with the tab. And so to Pastors Mike and Pastor Donna-Marie, let's just give them a round of applause for their leadership, for their expertise, for their spiritual covering, for all that they are, not only to you at tab, but to the world. It's an honor to be here. But great question, great question. I would say that when people experience betrayal in their marriage, the number one thing that they are most compelled to do is to make a decision. And oftentimes that decision is, should I stay or should I go?
Yeah.
And we encourage people that the best decision that you could ever make is to make no decision at all in that space. Because in haste, people oftentimes make decisions that they will regret. So it's a time to pause, to be still. Even the Bible says, be still and know that I am God.
Yeah.
The second thing I would encourage people to do is to seek professional help. People who are qualified, skilled, and have experience to guide you through a comprehensive process.
So not just talk to your friends, not just let your friends tell you, I'd leave him, leave that booger, leave him, no. That's how we speak over here, brother.
Well, as I always say, oftentimes we share our problems with people who share our problems. Woo! And we pay attention, to Instagram posts and hashtags, and we're getting all of this advice from society, and they will steer us in the wrong direction, and we will ultimately wind up in a ditch. Overwhelmingly, most couples do not divorce because of an affair. If they do divorce, it's because of how they show up or refuse to show up after the discovery of the affair. So if they go through a process of healing and transformation, you'd be surprised. There's many couples who have stronger marriages after they discovered the affair than what they had prior to.
I love it. I love it. And in terms of when do one of the questions was kind of the same, but it was more succinct in asking, when do I fight and when do I walk away? When do I fight for the marriage? What is the signs that's worth fighting for? This is coming from a woman, actually. What's the sign that it's worth fighting for? And what's the sign that says I should just walk away from this guy?
Well, I'll start with the latter. You walk away when you've exhausted everything. But the reality is most have not. Most have not done the necessary work. If they haven't gone to counseling, if they haven't gone to a retreat, if they haven't gone to Relationship Month at TAB, if they haven't read a book, if they haven't done all the fundamental things to see if their relationship can be restored, divorce should be the last step, not the first step. There's so many other steps in between. But I think, once again, because people are making irrational decisions when they're soaked and saturated in their feelings and emotions, that's when they decide to do things that compromise the integrity of what could be, if they get the proper help.
Give us an anecdote. You do this every single day. You are flown into celebrity houses in Hollywood. You go to South America. You guys are literally the ER service for those people, the A&E group, the ambulance service. Give us some anecdotes as to where you've where you've seen something worth fighting for, and when you've seen actually you've had to say to this couple, I think it's actually the end.
Well, here's the reality. Overwhelmingly, the majority of people who come to us are married. Now, we do have a small group of couples who are not married yet, but usually if you're married, you have children, you have financial ties, there are businesses, assets, there's a community of people who are relying upon the unity of that relationship. So you're not just fighting for you, but for everyone and everything that is connected to you. And so that's why you want to not make a rash decision and just decide that it's over, because it can have a significant impact, not just on you, but for generations to come. So it's always worth fighting for, because at the end of the day, God's ideal situation for us is for us to be restored and redeemed. And if we can do things his way, then, healing and restoration is something that can significantly be experienced with most couples if they just go through the process.
We had a question, guys, I'm going to come to you guys real quick. We had a question come in as well, talking about identity. I want to know how you guys have handled that. Somebody was asking about the fact that they feel that in the marriage, they lost their identity. Like they lost their old self, and felt like they'd been swallowed up and ensconced into a context where they didn't know who they were anymore. Did any of you in any season, the back row season or the front row season, ever experience any of that, and how did you handle it? And then I'm going to go to Hasani for some response on that.
No, we didn't. So because we didn't do that, when we do the course, we actually encourage people to have individual time, but it has to be something that's been agreed with you both.
Yeah.
So you've got to agree that it's okay to have separate time apart from each other.
Yes.
So because you're you, aren't you? You've individual, you've come together, but it's good to retain you.
Yeah.
Because that brings excitement to the relationship, your individuality. So we encourage that.
Right.
But we also encourage that you don't spend more time apart than you do together.
Love that. That's with our tab marriage course. Love that. Guys at the back, identity, especially as women. I'm particularly interested in women. Then I'll come to the men about missing out on being with the boys. Go on.
Yeah. For me, it has been quite different. I felt like I lost my identity the time I started to have children.
So it wasn't so much the marriage, it was more having kids.
Yes.
Got it.
It was more having kids, because I just felt like I had to give my all
to the kids.
Yeah, to the kids.
Yeah.
And it has taken about 6 years where I felt like I was completely out.
Yeah.
And it's been a process of starting again to rebuild my identity, go back to the starting point. What is it that I am about? What has God called me to do? So I was out for some time, but I'm back now.
Mariam.
I would second that myself. Having kids, it changes your whole world, and it changes your focus as well. You focus less on yourself and more on the family and what needs to be done. You kind of almost become like a robot, and you're just doing life, you're just doing work, you're just doing kids, and it's just the fact that you kind of lose yourself a little bit, and it's now trying to get back into exactly what Nash has said about what has God got planned for me, what is my purpose, and going back to what has God called me. And
fellas, I said this last week. Those of you who were at the second service last week, I was mentioning about how love for a woman is often very different for the perception of love for a man. I talked about the fact that women are concerned, especially singles, are concerned with their biological clock. Men are concerned with our economic clock. I want to make some money by this age. You just heard Eric say what he said, And within that then comes the issue of love, and the fact that for women, love is quite a romantic thing, a feelings, a sensory, gooey. Girls are planning their weddings from they've got dolls. For a man, once he falls in love, it actually often is a threat. It's something we've got to think about a little bit deeper, because with that, for a genuinely good man, not a what we call over here a waste man, it means that when you fall in love, you know there's going to be responsibilities. So we have to think slightly differently. You also, especially in this generation, many of the men feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss out on the man them. I ain't going to be hanging with the boys them anymore. Talk to us about how that may or may not have impacted you, and then I'm going to go to Hasani.
For me personally, I felt like God told me initially that your biggest achievements will be birthed from your marriage.
I love that.
The only reason being that, is that you've now got something to build, which is legacy. So that's something that's actually going to precede you, compared to when you are single. You're just pursuing the perceptions of your peers compared to the perception of how God wants you. So I think for me, once I did get married, I knew that I actually have something bigger to fight and pursue for, because it's going to precede me. After I've gone, my legacy I personally want my legacy to speak volumes of God's grace and God's power. So for me, I think I gained more motivation after getting married. So I think initially, I would say for the first 2 years, I was saying to T, like, they're not even inviting me out, man. It's just because I got married, bro. They feel like I'm not, I'm not a part of the gang anymore. But I then later realized that there was more trouble in the gang than there was at home.
Stay at home. Stay at home.
Stay at home.
Stay at home.
Or stay. Not even just stay at home. Sometimes, if you was to flip that word home, stay at home. Home could be around the right company.
Yeah.
So sometimes you being around other guys that are in the same boat as you, that could be home.
Yeah.
So sometimes my home needed to shift.
Yeah.
So the type of guys I was around, that I need to reconfigure what I called home.
What's the safe space?
What is the safe space?
Hasani, talk to us about this, about when you're dealing with many of the couples, and especially the men. I want to talk about the women as well, about the identity issue and how that can often impact the vitality and health and progressive aspects of a marriage.
So, Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, the scripture says that a man shall leave his father and mother, cleave unto his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. And so in that becoming of one flesh, unfortunately, to the point that we're talking about, people's individuality, their self-expression, their uniqueness is lost, where one gets consumed in the identity of the other, or you have two individuals trying to figure out what their identity is going to be. But one of the things that we talk about is this we-ness factor. Like, we-ness is the sense of unity, connection, and shared identity that a couple develops when they prioritize the collective we over the individual me. So Danielle didn't have to lose her brilliance once she came into relationship with me, and neither did I her, but we brought our brilliance to the table to create a greater collective whole that we both could benefit from. And so to the point of men that you're actually talking about, I think that we come into marriage with an idea. You mentioned how our focus is primarily on being a provider, right? We want to be the protector, we want to be the provider. And there is a necessary space for that. And that's really more of a focus on the marriage, how we show up in the marriage. But we also must focus as men on how we show up in the relationship within the marriage. That's a completely different skill set. And so one of the things that we talk about in our program, we have a program called Irreplaceable Husbands. And husband, interestingly enough, is an acronym. And each letter in the word actually represents a characteristic that should be exemplified in order for them to be the men within that marriage that God has designed them to be.
Love that. Thank you, brother. It's,
I was just going to say on identity, it's funny because we talk about soil here, your start out in life here at the Tab, and we had completely different start outs in life, hadn't we? And I realize now, I didn't know it at the time, and it was very difficult in the first stages of our marriage, and we're going to talk openly, to try and bring our two worlds together and become the we that you were talking about, Hasani, because I had grown up in an environment that was violent, that was, they didn't respect the women. My mum wasn't respected. It wasn't a great show of marriage. It was awful, really. And so when I grew up, I knew that I didn't want that. I never wanted that. I wanted to live my life, enjoy my life. I wanted to. I knew how to do stuff. I lived alone. I knew how to change a fuse, change a light bulb. So to me, what did I need man for? Because even women on their own can do maybe, that's for a woman's event, but we'll talk about that later. And I promise you we will one time. But the thing is, when I did get married, I felt that my identity, like you were saying, I was like, well, hold on, my identity, I'm losing my identity. But I realized that the identity that had been placed on me was not the identity that God had for me. Amen. Do you see what I mean? The identity. And I preached a message a long time ago called That's Not My Name. But I was walking around as an angry, man-hating tomboy that didn't need no man, that didn't need this. I could do it all on my own. And by the time he came with love, I came with anger. And it didn't look like for a while it was going to work, did it?
Fam, I thought I married Lucifer.
But
the problem is I was pastoring.
And he was pastoring,
so
and he was like,
we've
got to work this out.
Our marriage is bigger. We used to say our marriage is bigger than us.
But
I had 400 people I was responsible for.
That's right. And I couldn't be the one that, it all fell apart within the first couple of weeks. And I realized that sometimes...
Weeks, fam. You never told me that part.
I realized there for a while that it was the we-ness that Hasani has spoken about, coming together and finding our identity as a couple. It started to chip away of who I really wasn't. Now, I know I'm still working on my refinedness and my femininity. I'm getting there. But there are many parts of me, I was carrying around an identity that wasn't given to me by God. It was given to me, amen, by the environment that I grew up in. It was something that was not meant to me. And if I had missed it, I wouldn't be the woman that I am today if I had let this man go.
What?
So I just want to put it out there. Sometimes they're not trying to come in and change who you are. Sometimes it's a God thing helping us to chip away, and that sculpturing that we talk about here in the tab, to find out who you truly are in God, the woman of God you truly are.
I think that's beautiful. I love that. I think one of the key things here as well, and I want to hear from Hasani on this and the couples, and then we'll wrap it up. But what's important is roles. I think roles are important. We forget that in Genesis, Hasani just mentioned Genesis. You'll read Genesis chapter 2. If you're single and seeking, and if you're even married, read again Genesis chapter 2. Notice this, not particularly profound, but very relevant nonetheless. Notice that Adam was created. Adam was created, then God placed Adam inside of a garden that God had planted, with Adam's purpose to take care of the garden. Look at your neighbor and say, take care of the garden.
Take care of the garden.
It was at that point that God then had Adam name the animals. Then God said, it's not good for the man to be alone. I'm going to make a helper suitable for him. Now, we've preached on that and taught on that before, the issue of complement. Somebody who complements you, okay? But we'll deal with that in a minute. Suitable. The fact is that God said it's not good for the man to be alone. What was it that made God say it's not good for him to be alone? I would submit to you that maybe God looked at the garden. If he's making woman as a helper for Adam, something Adam obviously needed help with. And the only job Adam had was take care of the garden. So maybe God looked at the garden and realized, Adam, you need somebody who's strong where you're weak. Yeah. And it's important then for couples to recognize roles. And some marriages often have clashes because some men think, because I'm the leader, I'm supposed to do everything. Yeah. You must listen to me. You can't do maths, yet you're trying to do the bills. You're not great at negotiating to get the right deals with your utilities, but your wife is an expert when it comes to negotiation. But because she's the woman and I'm the leader, and that's what you saw in your toxic upbringing, you then have clashes. You're always in debt. There's always drama because you haven't figured out who's got the gift for the particular roles. Hasani, I want to spin to you. We didn't plan this, but I want to hear from you if anything what I've said resonates with what you experience in your professional capacity.
I'm so excited that you brought this up because we talk about this all the time. The fact of the matter is, not only do we need to recognize the roles, I think as husbands, we need to acknowledge and celebrate the roles that wives play in our lives, because to your point, they're a suitable helper. There was a phenomenal article that was written in the magazine a couple years ago, and it was breaking down this concept called invisible labor. And invisible labor is a term for work that is often associated with what wives do in a relationship, in a marriage, but they do not get value for it, they are not recognized for it, they are not paid for, yet they provide a huge contribution to the home. If you give me just 2 minutes to go through this.
Go ahead, man, come on.
It said that it gave a detailed list of all of the potential specific tasks associated with a wife's role, and it gave a professional title and an annual salary equivalent to the position. So here we go. It says that a wife could be a chef or personal cook, obviously preparing meals, planning weekly menus. That's a $50,000 salary. Oftentimes she's a housekeeper, taking care of daily cleaning and organizing and laundry. That's a $35,000 salary. She's a personal assistant, managing household schedules and appointments and coordinating events. $50,000. She's an event planner, planning date nights, anniversaries, vacations, and social events. $55,000. She deals with financial management and bookkeeping, managing household budgets, paying bills, and handling expenses. That's $45,000. She's a therapist or a counselor, providing emotional support, conflict resolution, and communication facilitated amongst the family members. That's $60,000. She's a chauffeur, driving for errands and appointments and joint activities for the kids and the spouse. $35,000. She's an interior decorator, decorating the home and creating a comfortable and aesthetically beautiful place for the family. $55,000. She's a health coordinator, managing healthcare related appointments and associated fitness routines and going to the doctor. $50,000. She's a personal shopper and stylist, shopping for the needs and clothes and personal items of the household. $40,000. She does laundry attendant work.
This ain't encouraging marriage, brother.
$30,000.
There's some men in here who are nervous. They're like, yeah, I've got gamophobia.
Men should be excited because they often look at the financial burden and responsibility of providing for the woman, which they should bear that responsibility. Yes. But they're not looking at all of the things that the wife contributes to him and the household.
Right.
I can go on and on. But let me just say this: the total value that wives bring to a marriage, and I didn't finish all the roles, is equivalent to $700,000 a year that she's bringing in value to that man.
Lord have mercy. I want to hear about the roles from you guys as well. Talk to us about, as we've just identified, that you got to know your strengths and your weaknesses. How do the roles get divvied up amongst you guys?
I think in our culture, when I say ours, in
your
our
personal culture, your marriage,
there isn't really any, prejudice or you can't do that, you can't do this. Again, we just created our own vibe. Like literally, it's like some of my friends who are fathers, they can't believe that I am such a, dad, with the whole carrier and changing nappies. Some of them are literally like, how are you doing that, bro? And I'm like, I'm doing that because I'm trying to cultivate the culture, or I'm trying to create the culture, in my home where my sons will be able to see dad doing what needs to be done. Needs to be done. I don't want to do this, but if it's something that comes up that needs to be done, I'll do it. Now, I'm not the greatest person when it comes to like DIY and all of that. That's her. Like, I don't enjoy those things personally. I personally feel like I can do better things with my time. But
you best behave yourself, fam. I know you're chatting about over there.
But if it needs to be done, it will be done. So I think when it comes to roles in our house, it's a as and when, if it's needed, I'll get it done.
See, my problem is I'm a traditional alpha. So I grew up in a home where my dad was an alpha male. He'd do all the male stuff, even if it was rubbish. So dad would wallpaper the bathroom, there'll be bubbles all over it, all kinds of stuff, right? But he was going to do it because he was the man, and my mum was the ultra feminine woman. So for me, I can't sit in me. I've got some traditions that you had to get used to those. Like if we pull up at a petrol station and she's driving, I'll get out and put the petrol in.
That's different.
I don't want her.
I agree with that.
I don't want her fingernails and hand oily. I want clean hands on my woman. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna get out. If her car needs servicing, if her car needs something doing, I'm gonna drive it to the mechanic or whatever. Yeah. It took you some time to get used to seeing
It did, because before you were around, I did that myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand
And
why I
it
could
bothered
still
me.
do it.
No, but literally, psychologically, it would bother me.
Yeah.
Knowing that she's going to do what I saw as masculine duties. And that's because of my soil.
Yeah.
I grew up in an environment where my dad was a man's man.
Yeah.
If none of you ever had the privilege of meeting my dad, but he was a proper fella. You know what I'm trying to say to you? Like a dude.
Yeah.
And so if I've grown up with that, I can't. Then she grew up with an absent father who, when he was there, he was quite violent towards her mother. And so that culture clash for us was a major issue in our marriage. Because I'm like, fam, you're not, them nails I've just paid for, fam. I don't want to see them. I don't want to see them putting petrol in and trying to mechanic up the place. Sit down, like, what are you doing? Sit down.
And then another thing, because you said, Eric,
Don't tell
about
too much now.
about the you're not great at handyman work, right? So he kept talking about, I'm the alpha male and you're supposed to be this, and we go at odds for all the time. But then one day, I was on the way home from work and he called me to say, I've called an electrician. And I said, why? And he said, because the lights have gone out. I said, well, what? Just flick up the trip switch, innit? And he said, what trip switch? And I was like, what? I thought you were supposed to be an alpha male. So I went home, went to the box, flipped up the trip switch, and everything was fine. Cancel the electrician. So I learnt.
I'm going to defend myself.
No.
All right.
What we've got now
I'm going to let you.
is a wonderful handyman. So you can
I'll
still
pay
be
a man.
your alpha man in a different way because you're too busy to do. Because remember, like the alarm system when we cut down. And Gabriella and Nanny.
But I will pay for a man to come and do it.
No, that's what I'm saying. So you had to learn.
I'm not going to drive from meeting to meeting and do my stuff, and also.
Yeah, exactly.
The question is, here's the question:
that, though.
Do I get stuff done?
Oh, absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you didn't get stuff done, but in the beginning, we laugh about it now. And again, another message that I preached. You remember Flat Packology, where I talked about building some stuff for Gabriella in the garden. We didn't even finish it. That's another story. But my point is, at the time, he kept telling me he's alpha male, and you need to be more. Not in your words. Where I have any domestic here. Let me just take that away. And. And what I'm saying is, but I was like, yeah, but you don't even know how to put the switch up. So I was getting annoyed that you're saying this and you're saying that. But as we grew together, I realised that his masculinity, it come in a different way. He gets the job done. He may pay our fantastic handyman, but he's got many other things that are brilliant. Do you see what I mean? He will pay for someone to put up cupboards. And there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make him less of a man. It makes him use his time wisely so that he can study the word of God to bring it to the house. He's proper alpha male, though.
Thank you for letting me have the mic back. I appreciate it.
Tommy!
Okay, last words, guys. So Mariam and Aaron, and then Carlton and Arlene in 60 seconds each. What's your role divisions?
Ooh.
Who does what that we'd unexpect? We just heard that Yasha does the DIY.
Yeah.
Eric carries the baby around and changes nappies.
Yeah.
You guys, go on.
Yeah, I would say that's...
What's important there, though, just quickly, is that you got to find, every couple has to find their rhythm.
Yes, yeah.
Don't be letting others tell you what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's quite similar. Like, there's a prime example, during the pandemic, I got a new, office chair thing, and I was like, no, I'm gonna fix this, yes. And it was cack-handed, by the time...
He doesn't read instructions.
No, I don't. I just...
And Mariam came and rescued the day.
She rescued me because I nearly dropped off one of my Zoom calls. Like, it nearly went, So Miriam is because she's also a dressmaker, so her mind works so intricately.
Right.
So she knows about
Love it.
Watching my wife actually make a garment is the most fascinating thing because that's her gift.
Yes.
So for me, I acknowledge that, you're good at flat pack stuff.
Yes,
And
yes.
listen, I'll buy the tools.
Yeah.
I am your helper.
Right.
I'm going to help you in this circumstance because she's excellent at it. But in comparison to where I'm a negotiator, I can talk. So, Miriam will be like, all right, I've got this thing coming up. I need you to negotiate. I'm like, no problem. And I'll be like, yeah, I've got the best deal. So, we work, I don't mind doing bath time.
Yeah.
I don't mind changing the nappies and all those types of things. I don't mind dramatizing a certain equation or certain things for our children to understand.
Yes.
And those are my gifts. So I think that's another thing. Acknowledging your wife or your husband's gifts reinforces their beautiful, unique identities as well.
And then we got to remember what it does for the kids when the kids see that. As Eric was mentioning, he wants his kids to see that they've got a dad who's willing to do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
What we're sowing into our kids from early age is critical, whatever we do. I buy, on Valentine's Day, I don't just buy her flowers, Pastor Donna, I buy Gabriella flowers. Because I'm trying to set that bar high.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Carlton and Arlene, you guys are the seasoned married people. Seasoned. Role divisions. Who's got the strengths, who's got the weakness, in what areas?
Well,
We're both multi.
yeah.
So like I said, I come from a large family. I've got 7 sisters. So when I was being brought up, my mum taught me to do everything.
Right.
So washing, cooking, cleaning, everything.
Yeah.
She said, you're not bound to find a woman that can do things. So you must
do it for yourself. Yeah.
So me, I'm multi.
Love
do
it.
everything from looking after the kids, cooking, washing clothes.
Love that.
Doing everything. Arlene's just
Arlene?
I can do all of that, but I don't get a chance. So he washes, we got a dishwasher, I don't even know how to open it. It's never been used. He washes, he cooks, he mops, he cleans, he hoovers, change the bed sheets. And I do this.
Wow.
That's not particularly true.
Wow.
Is that true, Carlton?
I do most things. She does as well. She cooks.
I can do, but you don't allow me to do. Be honest. Do I wash plates?
Well, no.
I love it.
And I've never been very maternal. God gave me 4 kids. I'm not maternal. He will grow the children. I'm good with finance.
So you just birth them and hand them to him?
Absolutely, Pastor. That's the truth.
And no, she will take care of their education and things like that. But for the actual looking after the kids, bathing them, feeding them,
that's you.
Thing like that. That's me. But then I love children. I come from a big family.
Wow.
Children has always been in my life. I love children.
That's amazing. So, Arlene, I find that so funny. You said you've had 4 kids. You yourself have just said you're not very maternal, but he does all of the care aspects. That's a real different gender division. I love that. The role play. I love that. And that's why I say everybody's got to find their rhythm. You got to find what works for you. Absolutely. I'm going to go to Hasani for the final word. Give us a final bit of wisdom. Give us some nuggets, Hasani. Then we're going to lock it down, brother.
I really enjoyed everything that all of the couples had to say. And it just shows that if we're all obeying the principles and laws of God and we incorporate them into our marriage, it's going to look different for each couple. And as long as it's working for you as a couple, then it's working. One thing I said in the earlier service, and I'll just end with, God's ideal environment for couples was the Garden of Eden. When translated in Hebrew, it simply meant a protected place of pleasure and provision. And that's what kingdom marriage is designed to be, a protected place of pleasure and provision. So continue to enjoy. For those of you who are single, I highly encourage you to take the next step. Find the one who God has for you and enjoy all the pleasures and the benefits of marriage. And for those who are, continue to take your relationship to the next level.
Let's put your hands together for Hasani, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Go follow Couples Academy. And of course, make some noise for the healthiest marriages you've never heard of. These amazing couples up here. Come on, church, stand to your feet. Give them a round of applause. Those of you who are single and searching, go follow Couples Academy. Hasani and Danielle have some amazing, amazing books for you to study, to help prep you, to help get you into the know.